having an adult play party at home isn't so bad after all.
Right. But it's really unbelievable how oblivious she is. Totally. She still hasn't realized what's going on between her husband and her sister. Laughter from the two echoes. I was outside the room, fists clenched. I wanted to burst in there and confront the two of them, bare as the day they were born. As I thought about this, my sister's voice gradually quieted down. Eventually, it turned into whispers to each other, followed by my sister's moans. I couldn't stand it anymore. What are they doing on my bed? I quietly left the scene, overwhelmed by anger I couldn't voice. Maybe I am oblivious. But I had a sneaking suspicion about Henry's infidelity. I was scared to confront the reality of being cheated on, so I just sat on my hands. But faced with irrefutable evidence, I've woken up. Henry and my despicable sister don't deserve forgiveness. If I run away now, I'll live with this forever. I refuse to be looked down upon any longer. I'm going to get revenge on them for myself. With that in mind, I quietly entered the living room. My name is Charlotte Davis. At 27, I'm a preschool teacher. It's a tough job, but I've always dreamed of doing it, and I have no plans to quit. However, Henry wants me to quit. He says it's embarrassing. You don't need to work since I'm earning. Henry works at a food processing company my father runs. He's a top performer in the company, having graduated from a prestigious university. Yet, he's embarrassed that his colleagues might find out his wife works, fearing mockery from his college friends. Henry seems to think so. Amelia has said similar things to me. But with her, it feels more like she's looking down on me. If anything, it felt like she was looking down on me. It's laughable that someone as clumsy as you is a preschool teacher. You better quit soon. I get complaints from Henry and disdain from Amelia. That's my life right now. But being looked down upon by Amelia isn't new. My sister Amelia, with her striking looks inherited from our mother, has always looked down on me for my average appearance. You really have nothing going for you, do you? Your looks are below average, and you don't have a single handy bone in your body.
That's not true. What? Don't talk back to me like that. You should just quietly listen to what I have to say.
How many times have we had this conversation? And I've heard the same from others around us. Your sister is so beautiful, just like your mom. You two really don't look alike, do you? No matter where we go, that's what people say. It's true that Amelia has a refined appearance. But it's not like I'm unattractive. I just take after our dad. I've always wanted to say that, but being bad with words, I never could. In the end, it's always Amelia who gets all the love from those around us. My mother, too, favored Amelia, who resembles her. There's a story that really shows this. It happened when I was in elementary school. One holiday, while Dad went to the convenience store, my mom said to Amelia,
"Amelia, shall we go shopping for some clothes?" "Really? Yay!"
Amelia jumped for joy. I felt a flicker of hope for a moment. But then, Mom turned to me with a cold look and said, "Charlotte, you don't need clothes, do you?"
I also..."
I averted my eyes, hesitating. Then, Mom gave me a sharp look.
"You don't need them, right?"
Yes.
"Oh, what a shame. Charlotte doesn't need any, so it'll just be the two of us."
And with that, Mom went out with Amelia. Of course, I was left to stay home alone. Eventually, Dad came home. Surprised, he asked why I was home alone. Mom and Amelia went to buy clothes. I almost burst into tears. Seeing me like that, Dad quickly realized that Mom was favoring only Amelia. He might have had his suspicions all along. Anyway, Dad confronted Mom when she got home. Then, with tears in her eyes, my mom started making excuses.
"It's because Charlotte said she didn't need any. She was just being polite. You should know that."
"I don't know about that." Mom pouted. Dad was visibly annoyed at Mom's attitude.
"Charlotte, next time, let's you and I go out, okay?" "Yeah."
Since that day, Dad has been more attentive towards me. On the other hand, Mom's attitude hasn't changed. She continues to favor Amelia over me. Honestly, I had given up. But it seems Dad hadn't. One day, Dad brought home a woman. She's a relative, named Mila, it seems. Mila was supposed to live on her own as she entered college, but our relatives were worried, so Dad took her in.
Nice to meet you, Charlotte.
Yeah. Basically, if there's a relative in the house, Mom won't be able to ignore me as easily. I found out later that Dad had this in mind. Anyway, with Mila's arrival, Mom and Amelia's attitudes visibly changed. When Amelia would say something mean to me, Mila would call her out on it.
Amelia, it's not nice to say things like that to your sister. Well, that's... You're a good girl, so you understand, right?
Amelia would sulk. Clearly displeased, but unable to complain openly. Of course, Mom was the same. Every time something happened, Mila would subtly reprimand her. For instance, when Mom prepared snacks only for Amelia, Mila said to her,
"Oh? Is the snack just for Amelia? Oh, no. Oh. You're gonna prepare Charlotte's share now, right?"
Mom grimaced at Mila's words. But she couldn't say I didn't have a share. If she did, Mila would tell Dad. Afraid of that, Mom reluctantly said with a forced smile.
"Yes, that's right. I'll get it ready now. Just wait a bit, Charlotte."
Reluctantly, Mom opened the fridge. And then, the same snack that was prepared for my sister was placed in front of me. Like that, Mila saved me many times. I wished Mila was my real sister. I thought that countless times when I was just 10 years old. She was 8 years older, so there was a bit of an age gap. But to me, Mila had become the sister I never had. That feeling only grew stronger. Eventually, I couldn't keep it in any longer and opened up to Mila.
"Hey, Mila. Can I call you sister from now on?" "Of course, you can,"
she said with a smile. But that upset my mom.
"Are you deceiving my daughter?"
What? What do you mean?
"Making Charlotte call you sister, what's your angle?"
Mom interrogated Mila harshly. Of course, Mila had no ulterior motives. She stood her ground and talked back to Mom. But the situation flipped when Mom accused her.
"You're having an affair with my husband, aren't you?" "What? That's not true at all. Don't lie. You're his mistress. That's why you're trying to make my daughter yours."
Mom lashed out at Mila. And her voice carried to the neighbors. Of course, there was no truth to Dad having an affair with Mila. But it certainly looked bad. In fact, rumors spread in the neighborhood that Mila was Dad's mistress. So, Dad had no choice but to ask Mila to leave our home. Once Mila left, everything quickly went back to how it was before. The only change was that the relationship between my parents worsened.
"Bringing a mistress into our home, how low can you get?"
"I've told you many times, Mila was
a relative, right? I'm tired of that excuse."
Mom turned away with a huff. Dad seemed completely exasperated. And with Mila gone, the harsh treatment towards me intensified. And with Mila gone, the treatment I received became harsher. Unable to bear it, I decided to leave home as soon as I graduated from high school. Afterward, I worked part-time jobs while attending community college. And I earned my preschool teaching certification. Even after becoming a preschool teacher, I continued to stay away from home. Because going back meant facing my mom and sister's snide remarks. I still worried about my family's business, though. But with Amelia around, it shouldn't be a problem. I felt bad for Dad, but I told him that over the phone. Then, Dad simply said he understood. It seems Dad understood how I felt. Feeling relieved, I threw myself into my work as a preschool teacher. A few years passed. And suddenly, I got a call from Dad.
"Charlotte, do you have someone you're planning to marry?" "Why the sudden question, Dad?" "Well, actually..."
This was Dad's story. A little while ago, he went for a comprehensive medical exam. He didn't find anything particularly wrong with himself, but a relative who went with him was found to have a disease. That got Dad thinking. He thought the company needed a successor. The company was founded by my grandfather. Furthermore, with the help of our relatives, it grew to its current size. However, it's not exactly a family-run business. It's just that it has been supported by family members. Meaning, if something happened to Dad, someone would need to take over. Naturally, there's the option of having a capable person take the helm, but Dad would prefer his own child to inherit it.
So, marriage, huh? Amelia is not reliable. What about you? How about meeting one of our excellent employees for a potential match?
Dad's voice sounded unusually serious. The medical exam must have really affected him.
Okay, I'll meet him, but just that. Really? Then, let's set a date.
It seemed he already had a date in mind for the matchmaking. Eventually, I went through with the arranged meeting as Dad suggested. I thought I'd just meet the guy and find an easy way to say no. But my plans went awry. For some reason, Mom started pushing for the marriage.
It's a good opportunity for someone like you who's always been reserved. There's no reason to say no, right? But is there someone else you're interested in?
I had no choice but to remain silent to Mom's questioning. Unable to refuse, I ended up dating the guy.
I'm sorry, my mom can be quite pushy. No problem. Being matched with a beauty like you is more than I could wish for.
My arranged date, Henry, said that with a laugh. I gave a polite smile in return. He's kind, and according to Dad, he's a rising star in the company. I'm not sure, but is this what marriage is supposed to feel like? Everyone around me always praised my sister. So, I hardly ever received compliments myself. But Henry called me beautiful. Even if it was just flattery, I might not meet someone like him again. So, I thought maybe getting married wouldn't be so bad. With that thought, I married Henry. At Dad's request, we started living together in my family home. I didn't like it, but since Amelia was living on her own, I only had to put up with Mom. That's what I thought. But soon I regretted my naive decision. Henry's attitude changed drastically after we got married.
Quit your job as a preschool teacher. Why? I love my job. I'm going to take over my father-in-law's company eventually. It's embarrassing for the wife of a future CEO to work.
His tone was soft. But what he was saying was pretty harsh. Don't work yourself to the bone like a poor man. Act like you're wealthy. I felt as though I could see right through Henry's unspoken feelings. My affection cooled rapidly. Within a few years, I had stopped caring about Henry at all. That's why our marriage was full of misunderstandings. Now, we both just see each other as roommates. However, since we're still legally married, I can't just let Henry do whatever he wants. On the other hand, part of me would be grateful if he were cheating somewhere. If I could catch him in the act, I could put an end to this relationship quickly.
But the fact that I've started to think this way might mean I've completely lost my love for Henry.
Even so, I'm scared to confront these feelings. I found myself caught between these conflicting emotions. In fact, Henry did sneak out occasionally. A simple investigation would likely reveal his indiscretions. Yet, I did nothing but sit on my hands. Then, one weekend, I decided to head out early in the morning to buy supplies for the performance.
I'll be back by evening. Huh? What about your father and mother? Dad's working this weekend. Mom went shopping with friends.
I had seen them off, so I was certain. Henry nodded reluctantly at my explanation.
So, it's just me, then? That's right. I'm counting on you to hold down the fort.
Yeah. With a look of annoyance, Henry scratched his head and retreated to the back of the house. I left the house, wondering if everything would be all right. I headed straight to the dollar store nearby.
First, let's get some paper.
Checking my phone's notes, I filled my basket with what I needed. After shopping for a while, I casually reached into my pocket. That's when I realized My wallet wasn't there.
Wait, my wallet? Did I drop it?
Then it hit me. I had left it on the living room table. Disappointed with myself, I put everything back and hurried home. As I unlocked the front door, I heard a strange noise coming from inside. It sounded like a woman's voice.
Wait, Henry's the only one supposed to be home, right?
I followed the sound. It was coming from our bedroom. Wondering why there would be a noise from the bedroom, the woman's voice became clearer. Charlotte isn't coming back until the evening? That voice, I realized, was my sister's. I instinctively covered my mouth. Then, I heard Henry's voice too.
She went to buy things for the performance at her work. So, an adult playtime till the evening, huh?
Looking closer, I noticed the door was slightly ajar. I peeked through the gap into the room. Inside, my sister and Henry were there. The two of them were on the bed, not wearing any clothes. Henry and my sister were having an affair. As I thought this, Henry said,
"Having an adult playtime at home isn't too bad, huh?"
"Yeah, but she's really clueless, isn't she?" "Totally."
To think she still hasn't realized her husband and sister are in this kind of relationship.
I heard their laughter. I was standing in front of the room, clenching my fists. I wanted to burst into the room and confront them both in their nakedness. While I was thinking about doing just that, my sister's voice gradually quietened. Soon, they were whispering to each other, and before long, my sister's moans filled the air. I had reached my breaking point. "What do you think you're doing in my bed?" Rage bubbled up inside me, though I couldn't voice it. Quietly, I moved away from the spot, making sure not to make any noise. Maybe I am a bit dense. But, deep down, I had a suspicion about Henry's infidelity. I was just too scared to acknowledge it, afraid of what it would mean. But, being faced with undeniable evidence woke me up. Henry and my despised sister are unforgivable. If I run now, it'll be like this forever. I refuse to be looked down upon by anyone anymore. I decided to take revenge on them both, for my own sake. With that thought, I quietly entered the living room. There's a family computer in the living room. I'd prefer to use my own. But it's in the bedroom. And since they're in there, I can't go in.
I can at least broadcast their playtime.
Muttering to myself, I picked up the webcam from the computer. Holding it, I went back to the bedroom door. Then, I aimed the camera into the room through the gap in the door and quickly returned to the living room. I turned on the computer and connected it wirelessly to the webcam. At the same time, I sent a message to someone. Then, like setting up a web conference, I started broadcasting the camera feed to that person.
"Can you see?"
I asked using the computer's microphone. Immediately, a reply came back.
"I can see everything clearly."
The reply was from Mila. Yes, I had contacted Mila. After Mila left the house, I felt quite down due to loneliness. Seeing me like that, my dad set up the computer so I could stay in touch. Since then, I've been frequently in contact with Mila. It's almost like having a web conference. That's how Dad described it. Anyway, it was easy to connect with Mila.
"My sister and Henry are cheating. Sis, is it okay to live stream this?" "Sure. I'll even record it for you."
After graduating college, Mila went into a job related to computers. Something about IoT solutions. This kind of task is easy for her. I wonder how much time had passed. Suddenly, there was a loud bang.
Ouch! What is this? What happened? There's something weird at the door.
Finally, she noticed. Just as I thought that, my sister's loud voice echoed.
"A camera!"
I heard running footsteps. Soon after, my sister burst into the living room. Finding me, she attempted to adjust her partially removed clothing while yelling.
"This is your doing, isn't it? What is this about?"
"It's a webcam."
"You've been spying, haven't you? Cut it out, you wicked woman."
My sister slammed the webcam to the floor. "The wicked one is you," I thought, but I retorted. "You'll have to pay for that if it's broken." It's quite expensive, you know.
Shut up. More importantly, why are you here?
Unlike you, I live here. I replied calmly. However, my attitude seemed to infuriate my sister.
It's not about that. You know what I mean.
My sister raised her voice. I responded with a feigned ignorance.
I just answered your question. But you're prepared, right? Huh? What's with the attitude?
My sister yelled just as Henry finally showed up. He glanced at my sister and smirked.
Charlotte, you're here. Did you finish shopping?
Not yet.
I came back for my wallet and found you two in the midst of your playtime. You spied on us?
Nice hobby, huh? Ahaha. I don't understand how he can laugh in this situation. So, I told Henry.
You think it's okay to laugh? You do know what happens when you cheat, right?
Nothing will happen.
No one's gonna listen to your story anyway.
Henry snorted in disdain.
Why would you think that? Because Amelia's here, and your mom is on our side.
I see, that's how it is. But this time, I have evidence. No matter what Mother says, she can't overturn this. With that thought, I quietly stood up. And then, I declared to Henry.
Henry, I'm divorcing you. I just got my hands on some damning evidence.
Huh? You think you can divorce me?
Go ahead and try.
He clearly doesn't grasp the situation. I sighed and turned back to my sister.
I'll be demanding alimony from you. Alimony? From me? Yes, from the person you cheated with.
As I raised my voice, my sister scowled. She glared at me with a stern look.
Don't act all high and mighty when you can't do anything. You should just quietly listen to what we say.
Sorry, but I'm an adult now.
I'm not listening to you or Mother anymore.
I grabbed the wallet on the table and slipped past my sister and Henry. I headed straight for the front door. That's when Henry chased after me.
Where are you going? I'm leaving. I don't want to be here anymore. I get it. You have someone else, don't you? Going to his place, huh?
I was taken aback. Such wild imagination. Perhaps, because he was cheating, he assumed I was doing the same. Regardless, I stared Henry down and snapped back sharply.
I've got proof of the affair. I don't need to stay here anymore, so I'm leaving.
After saying this unilaterally, I went outside.
Hey, wait. This isn't over yet. It is over. I'm divorcing you. We'll set up a meeting later to discuss further.
I shouted, drowning out Henry's voice, and slammed the front door with force. Then, I headed straight to Mila's place. Mila lives alone, about a 30-minute drive away. Since she's not married, she might be willing to take me in on short notice. With that thought, I rang Mila's doorbell. Mila immediately came out. Seeing my face, she hugged me without asking why. I was so relieved that I started crying right there, in public. After I calmed down, Mila let me into her apartment.
Are you okay? Have you calmed down?
Yeah.
It must have been tough. But it might be even tougher back at the house.
Mila smirked. Confused, I asked her back.
What do you mean? Well, actually.
Mila started explaining the situation, struggling to hold back her laughter. The story goes back a bit. It was right after I had contacted Mila. She had started recording the adult playtime of Henry and my sister. Just then, Mila received a call from someone. The caller was a business contact, wanting to discuss work. After their brief work conversation, the caller sought personal advice from Mila. That's when Mila had a brilliant idea and did something quite bold.
My broadcast? Yes. While I was recording your broadcast, I also shared it with that person. So, someone completely unknown saw it too?
I covered my face with my hands, overwhelmed by embarrassment. I hadn't intended for it to go that far. That was what I was thinking at the time. That's when Mila patted my back.
It's not a stranger. I shared it with your dad. My dad?
I asked back, and Mila started explaining while laughing. Mila works for an IoT solutions company. It's a company that solves various problems through the internet and things. My dad was interested in the IoT solutions and had been consulting Mila about her company. In other words, it was half about work and half personal. That's what the call was about, apparently. But the work talk ended quickly. Then, my dad also talked to Mila about me. He had noticed that things weren't going well between Henry and me. Hearing that, Mila had a realization. Henry was undoubtedly the problem. And right now, the evidence was unfolding before her eyes. Thinking this, Mila prefaced by saying,
"Something like this is happening right now."
Mila then sent the broadcast I was streaming to my dad. My dad watched the broadcast in silence. After the part where my sister broke the camera, my dad told Mila,
"If Charlotte comes over, please stay with her."
After saying that, my dad cut off the communication. What happened after that, I don't know. But he probably went back home. That's what Mila said. At that moment, my phone rang. It was my dad who had contacted me.
"Come back home."
That was the message my dad sent. Naturally, I didn't want to go back home. But if dad says to come back, it must mean that some resolution has been reached.
"I'll go with you,"
Mila said, so I was prepared. The two of us went back home together. When we arrived, my sister and Henry were sitting in Siza in the living room. In front of them sat my dad, looking furious. I quietly spoke to my dad.
"Dad, I'm home." I've been waiting. These two have something they want to say to you,"
he said, looking sternly at my sister and Henry sitting in Siza.
"Eek! I'm sorry. It was my fault,"
Henry said, deeply apologizing. At the same time, my sister next to him also apologized.
"I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Please forgive me."
My sister was crying, unusually. I felt a bit of relief.
"What will you do, Charlotte? Forgive or not?"
Asked by my dad, I thought about it. But the answer had already been decided.
"There's no way I can forgive. I'm going to divorce and I'll also demand alimony from both of them." "Wait a minute. I don't have money like that." "That's your problem. It has nothing to do with me." "Wait, please."
My sister started to panic. However, as soon as Dad intervened, she immediately calmed down. I couldn't believe how much my arrogant sister had changed. What had happened while I was away? I was so surprised I couldn't find the words. As I was thinking this, Henry looked up.
"Charlotte, please reconsider the divorce."
"No.
Don't say that. Without this marriage, I won't have a place at the company."
Henry started to cry. He looked just like a child.
"What do you mean?"
Turning back to my dad, he looked sternly at Henry and then explained.
"I've been favoring him because he was Charlotte's husband. Without that, how will others view him?"
"Oh, I see.
If they think he messed up, it's over for him."
Of course, it doesn't mean he'll be fired from the company. But what happens to an ex-husband who's been cast aside? It's needless to say. There won't be anyone willing to lend him a hand. Henry was crying and clinging to me. But there was no point in showing mercy. So, I said to the crying Henry, "That's too bad. Maybe you should look for a new job?"
"Wait a second. Please, let's start over. All right?" "No. I've decided to divorce."
I shrugged off Henry's clinging hands. At that moment, Henry collapsed to the ground. Afterward, the video of the adult playtime became decisive evidence, and Henry and I officially divorced. Of course, with clear evidence, I was able to receive a substantial amount of alimony. I also demanded alimony from my sister. She tried to resist, but with that evidence, she was powerless. While my private life was tumultuously changing, most of the work was left to the lawyers. Because I had to prepare for the performance and attend to my daily job. Working was actually a distraction. I was prepared for some complications, but the divorce went surprisingly smoothly. Maybe I have the lawyer to thank for that. I felt relieved. Then, one day, after some time had passed, I was approached by a parent named Smith at pickup time.
Ms. Charlotte, can I talk to you for a moment?
What is it?
I've been seeing some strange people around the daycare lately.
Apparently, there's someone who seems to be watching the daycare. Other parents are scared too. Before any harm comes to the children, we thought the daycare should take action. That's what he told me. I was just surprised.
I had no idea. What do they look like?
Like a suspicious man. Before the situation worsened, we needed to take measures. Thinking that, I immediately consulted with the principal. After hearing my story, the principal quickly contacted the local police. The police agreed to increase patrols. But that alone might not be enough. I collaborated with other caregivers to alert the parents. I hoped that would make the observer cautious. A few days later, during pickup time, I heard a loud voice from the street in front of the daycare.
Hey! What are you doing here? Stop!
Startled, I instinctively shielded the children. The principal ushered the children inside the building. Once the children's safety was ensured, I looked out the window towards the street.
What are you doing here?
The one shouting was Smith. It seemed he had come to pick up his child. In front of him stood a suspicious figure in a black hood, holding a camera. The attire was suspicious too, maybe a pervert. The principal thought the same and had called the police. Then, the man retorted to Smith. I was just, nothing in particular. Hearing that voice, I was startled. That voice, Henry? Thinking this, I strained my eyes to see the person under the hood. A glimpse of the face was visible through the gap in the hood. It was clearly Henry. Why is he here, I thought, as I found myself stepping forward. Noticing me, Smith moved to shield me. That's when the person under the hood, that is, Henry, shouted.
So you were cheating after all? Is he the one?
Henry was raising his voice at me. Smith looked puzzled at the situation. Then he quietly asked me, "Do you know him?" I was dumbfounded that he was the suspicious person. Just as I was letting my guard down, Henry raised his voice.
This man is your affair partner, right?
Henry was pointing at Smith. I replied, exasperated.
What are you talking about? This person is a parent of one of the children. Lies. I heard it from your mother-in-law. You're having an affair with a parent from the daycare, aren't you?
In front of me, stunned, Henry unilaterally started talking. It was right after we divorced. Desperate to reconcile, Henry consulted his mother. She told him this. I was having an affair with a parent from the daycare. If he could find that affair partner, they would reconcile us. She promised to convince me that Henry and my sister's affair was just an act. How could such a story even come about? I was so flabbergasted I couldn't say a word. Just then, a loud siren sounded, and several police cars arrived.
What's going on? Just stay calm.
Smith caught Henry as he tried to flee in panic. Henry squirmed and shouted,
Let go!
Miss Charlotte, do you know this person? Smith asked me again. I shook my head and answered. Smith, you're a police officer, right? He's a suspicious person, please take him away. I said coldly, and Henry was shocked. In the end, Henry was taken away by the police. Later, I heard that Henry received a stern warning from the police before he was released. But whether he was really fine after that is debatable. In fact, many children started crying when Henry was found. Naturally, no parent would forgive such an incident. Indeed, one of the parents sued Henry because their child was traumatized. The reason was that the child was traumatized. Whether alimony was granted is unknown. But this certainly added insult to injury for Henry. Seeing the seriousness of the situation, my dad fired Henry. Furthermore, he was ordered to pay the parents' alimony from part of his severance pay. Henry couldn't ignore my father's command. The whole incident was recorded on video, and parts of it were distributed on a video site. In the end, Henry had no choice but to seek the removal of the videos as a condition for reconciliation. Having lost his job, Henry seems to be living by doing late-night part-time work. Moreover, my mother, who had instigated Henry, ended up having a big fight with my father. It appears she wanted to help my sister. Discovering this, my father was furious. He then said to her,
"Why are you always against Charlotte? I can't be with you anymore. It's divorce."
That's how my mother was kicked out of the house. With nowhere to go, she moved into my sister's place. But, having been sued for alimony due to the affair and rumors at her workplace, my sister had just quit her job. Naturally, she tried to kick our mother out immediately. On the other hand, my mother couldn't just be kicked out easily. Because Mila had spread the word about the divorce among our relatives. A bad woman who favored only one of her daughters. That's how my mother was viewed among our relatives. Moreover, my sister was seen as a malicious woman who stole her sister's husband. The two, having no relatives to rely on, had to support each other. Eventually, they decided to support each other through cleaning part-time jobs and moved into a small apartment together. As for me, I'm continuing my work as a daycare teacher. The incident with Henry caused trouble for the daycare. So, I had intended to quit at first. But, I was persuaded to stay by the parents. That's why I'm still working as a daycare teacher. Remarriage or dating isn't something I can think about for a while. But, if a good opportunity comes, maybe I'll consider it seriously.
Miss Charlotte, do you have any worries?
No. More importantly, I apologize for the inconvenience the other day.
If you have any worries, I'm always here to listen. I'm single and have some free time.
When I was told that, I felt a little happy. Thinking this might be love is a secret.